right. I think that is good. All right, hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we were working on the deed tracker plugin, and we're going over how some of the changes in the data structures came about and how that broke some of the code that relied on the old structure, and then we started in fixing that. And so today, the deed tracker is loading and generally working, and I have some notes on some other less mission critical parts of the code that are also disrupted by the change in save file format and data structure. So we're going to just pick up where we left off and start working our way through those notes until we are kind of satisfied that all of the code that was conforming to the old way is now doing the new way. Cool. As always, feel free to jump into chats with your thoughts and questions. Doesn't matter if it's about plugins specifically, about LOTRO in general. And I know someone in Little Redhead's chat was having issues with a plugin. So if you're still here, chime up and maybe we can dig into that a little bit and see if we can get things working better for you. All right. Let me go ahead and move some windows around here. We're going to go ahead and share the desktop, and all right. So we're up here in the hills above Galtrev. I need to update my opening video. It's still stuck in Mirkwood, but the Treebeard server has advanced over to the Rise of Isengard content, and actually something that we were just doing playthrough here, and something I guess I realized is there's an eastern exit out of Galtrev up here in the hills where you go and burn stuff that I've just never put into my head as a thing that exists and should be used if you want to avoid the lumberyard. And oh my goodness, it's here and topographically more convenient. All right, I need to remember that for the next time I bring a character through Galtrev. Wild. Okay. Just a little detour there. Then when you come in, you are up here. Fantastic. All right, well, we're just going to park ourselves on this hillside. There's some unkind people up here, but there's also a fantastic view. So we'll take it. Okay, so what do we have? We have a to-do file, which is the simplest way of tracking what you're working on. There's much more sophisticated, we could even say better, ways to track bugs and issues and notes and things. But barring all of that, have a consistent place to put your thoughts on what do I want to do later? Oh, I saw a thing, but I can't work on it right now. Oh, someone asked for a feature. All those things should go somewhere because you're not going to want to just have it in your brain. Your brain is squishy and it's easy to forget things. So just have a place to put it. Text file works. There are other things that can work even better. Okay, so we have this. We also have our source control. We're using the fork program from fork.dev. It wraps around a Git repository, and there's stuff changed. I've got 13 files changed in my local directory. That's not good for having a clean working directory that we can easily reset things to. So let's take a look at what's going on here. It looks like I was in the middle of making some edits. Oh yeah, looks like this was the addition of a deed. To some of the deed data files. Well, that seems like a good thing to commit. Hello, Aaron Bard. Welcome in chat. So let's go ahead and commit this. Added second thespian deed. Now this is an interesting thing. We just came off of the Yule Festival, and you may have noticed in your race and social that it's possible to get two different deeds called thespian. So there's the thespian deed from obtaining the title writ, which you can do from the barterer. You can trade in some Yule tokens, get the title writ thespian, and you can also get the title thespian from completing the other thespian deed, which is performing the extra and protagonist and villains roles. And for some reason, both of these are active and live, even though they seem conceptually overlapping. You get the title thespian from doing the thing, but for whatever reason, they're both in the game, and they were not both in my data files. So, good thing to add in here. Okay. So we want to go ahead and add those. I was doing some other things here, kind of working through some issues. Maybe this was even on stream, I'm not sure. So let's get a sense of what were we doing. Because sometimes you just come back to code and it's been a while, maybe you went on winter vacation and you're just like, I have no memory of this place. And it's great to exercise that skill of reading code that seems unfamiliar, even if you're the person who did the code. So this is a good exercise to do. Sometimes we just force it on ourselves because we didn't commit our work at the end of a Friday. We come in on Monday and we're like, what is this? So let's come on in and see. We see some changes in the companion import window, the disambiguate window. Globals is not a problem. That's our debug options. In our main, fair amount of changes, our main win, and our plugin functions. Let's start at plugin functions, because that might be a place that changed that caused these other changes. Okay. So I'm going to compare this in a external file comparison utility. I really like Beyond Compare. I've been using it, I don't know, 20 years or something, and it's I have integrated it into my workflow in a way that just the in-program comparison tool that we use in Fork, it just doesn't work for me. I mean, you can do the same side-by-side, so a side-by-side diff, but now we have, we're multiple layers of tabbed windows into this UI, and for me it's just easier to pop it out into another place. Ember says, I have minimal code knowledge. Am I stuck for plugin fixing? Probably not. Most plugins don't require you to have any, I would say, in general, using plugins doesn't require you to know how to code plugins. It can be occasionally useful for someone like myself to encounter, when I encounter an error in a plugin or where the plugin's not working quite right, like I feel confident in my ability to maybe tweak it. But for an average user of a plugin, no, you do not need coding knowledge. What you want to have is the knowledge of what does it look like when a plugin misbehaves. And so let's do an example. Let's go ahead and fire up our plugin manager. I'm going to go ahead and unload everything. And then I'm going to go make a syntax error, a place where the code is written wrongly in the D tracker, so we can see what happens. So if I just say, this is not good code. Okay. And then I try to load the D tracker, we can see that there is an error message in my plugins chat down here. So when we come down here, we can see, hey, failed to import, blah, blah, blah. Like these are all messages that say, we were not able to read the code, and so we're just stopping and the plugin is not loaded. And we can see that reflected in the plugin manager. When we try to load, it doesn't turn a different color to show that it's been loaded. Whereas when we take that out and come back in, we can see when we load the plugin, because the plugin was loaded successfully, this bar turns a different color. In my default skin of the game, unloaded ones are dark, loaded ones are light. And so we can see the plugin loaded. It is running in the game. There are ways for a plugin to run incorrectly in a game, but once the plugin is loaded, we know, okay, cool, the code part is okay, and it is now in memory, and cool, we're good to go. And so I think someone, perhaps it was you, Aaron Bard, who was having a problem with the Pets plugin, was mentioning that it wasn't loading. And this is a distinction that matters to plugin developers or people who are looking at the code, is it loaded and not working, or did it not load at all? And those are two different ways of a plugin misbehaving. So for instance, if the D tracker were loaded and not automatically detecting deeds being completed, it would be running, it just wouldn't be running correctly. Aaronbird says not loading. All right, sounds like that was you. It was possibly the pets plugin. So let's load up the plugin compendium. This is the easiest way to install plugins for Lord of the Rings Online. Awesome, you with the pets plugin. So if we search for pets, we can see a couple of them. And if we look at the last updated one, that really helps narrow it down. Pets U34.1.1 is a LOTRO patch. Patches are a little tricky to install in the LOTRO Plugin Compendium, so I'm going to load that up over here. Let's see. Alright, so the original one is Pets, and then there's the Pets Update 34.1.1. Good to know. Looks like Pets might not be in the plugin compendium at the moment. Pets 34 might be. I'm actually a little curious what's going on under the covers. Okay, what is that window? Awesome. Let me go ahead and do the exclamation point plugins command here. There's a link there to a page over on the LOTRO interface site for, let's see, yes, open that URL please. This is the LOTRO Plugin Compendium. This is a third-party program that you can download, and it can manage the installation of many popular LOTRO plugins. Once you've downloaded it and installed it, you can launch this window, and for example, let's see. If I want to install this Pets U34.1.1, I click it, I select Add, and it is done. That's super easy. But what I'm curious about is, does this patch include all of the base files as well? And that's pretty easy for someone to just check. All of these files are available. There's nothing really secretive about this. Oops. We want to extract all. We want to extract all. And I'm going to go ahead and just compare those, just for my own curiosity. Oh, nope, that's not going to work. So compare. And Barrett asks, like a mod manager, essentially it knows how to download plugins and knows where to put them in the correct location. And that can be a thing that is hard for a lot of people to get quite right, especially on the first plugin. Once you have 3 or 4 plugins, downloading it manually isn't too much of a problem, but it is a bit of a pain to do it every time. Okay, what I am seeing is that it looks pretty complete. Awesome. So we went ahead and added that plugin, so it's Pets is under installed plugins. Great. We can come back to the game and refresh. Remember that if the game is running, you want to hit this green arrow to make sure that LOTRO knows that another plugin is there. We're going to go ahead and load that plugin. Awesome. So once the plugin is loaded, we get 2 things. We get an icon that seems to default up here above your nameplate. That's going to have the pets that you selected for it. Maybe it doesn't default. Maybe I've already loaded this up at least once and moved that icon around. In which case, I'm not sure where that icon defaults to. And you have the pets window. I assume if I type /pets, that hides the window and re-shows the window. Excellent. Cool. So I guess my first couple of questions for Aaron Bard listening are, which version of Pets are you running? Do you have the Pets U34.1.1 that was updated in December for Andreas? And when you are loading Pets, if it does not load, is there an error message that comes out into your error chat channel? And you'll want to make sure that you have checked yes for error on whatever tab you're looking for it on. And generally, if a plugin does not load, you will see a message in the error tab, chat channel. I don't think there's any real plugin out there that you try to load it and it doesn't load and that is normal, except for unloaders or reloaders, which doesn't really count. Cool. So if I want to do a search for just the ones I know, is that possible? Let's see. Maybe not. That would be a nice filter, though. Is just show me the ones that I can actually use. But I do have a lot of them. That's nice. Fun. Okay. Well, Aaron Bard's going to look at that, and we're going to give them a chance to do that. So we're going to go ahead and unload that. Come on in and come back to what we were doing, which was reviewing some changes. Okay. So. So I made a change in some data files. Are those data files correct? What I did is the deed data, a thing that I did was go ahead and add in a bit of a lookup for which tab and which page we expect this deed to be on. And that's pulled from some other information that I have. By having this here, it reduced the need for a lookup to say, well, given this deed, where does it go in the UI? Because it's just part of the deed data. So this ID lookup table that I was using, I think I was in the middle of getting rid of that. So let's come take a look at that. So ID lookup, and is there anywhere else that uses that? Okay, this is a place that uses the deed number, which is a thing I haven't fixed yet. Lookup, this uses K as well. Okay, so the answer is only in the place that needs information that's not there in the data file. Cool, okay. So this is a great change. We're getting rid of an unnecessary lookup. This lookup is interesting. Oh yes, we have the get deed IJK function. So we don't need to do all of this lookup. We have the same thing, get deed IJK. So we're replacing all of this. All right, we moved around the accessing of that deed. We added out, we got rid of a temporary variable that shouldn't have been committed. Oh, okay, so you're using a plugin called Pet Stable. That is a different plugin. Let's take a look at that. Pet Stable 116. Awesome. Okay. So if I go ahead and refresh Pet Stable, cool. Oh well, that's a different error. So I do not currently have the turbine files in my plugins directory, and that's a prerequisite for this. So we're going to go ahead and add those back in and reload this. Okay, so we have Pet Stable, or Pet Stable, as I will call it from now on. Okay, so I don't know how this works, but I'm guessing that you go ahead and find your cosmetic pets, this is the first time I've used this, and drag them on over. So unload, reload. Okay. No idea what that error is says Aaron Bard. Well, thank you very much for copying that error. That error is quickslot.lua11 invalid shortcut for quickslot specified. And that is a very interesting one, because what it is saying is we tried to make a thing that is clickable on, like we have right here. This is a quick slot for the Spirit Bear, but something about it went wrong, and that is fascinating. Now, what I'm actually curious about is if it's a question of, well, when was Pet Stable last updated? All right, Pet Stable was, well, let's go to the website. All right. This was last updated a year ago. So my curiosity is, did you put in a pet it doesn't know about? That seems unlikely. Okay, so we've gone ahead and added in a thing. Okay, that's a pretty new one. Oh, cool. When you click on it, it tells you where to get it from. That's fun. I've added in a couple of new pets that were released with the Swampfleet and Cardalon, I think. And just to kind of throw wild cards at it. Okay, nothing so far. That's pretty neat, though. Okay, but we don't actually need to replicate the error to dig into the code and see what do we think is the problem there. So what we could do is, well, okay, so there's two things. First, that could be related to a specific thing in a save file where you put in just the wrong pet. There's one pet in there out of all of the pets that just recreates this error. And the second thing is there's just something weird going on. So we're gonna go for the weird one. But other thing that you can do is you can delete the plugin data files, the save files for your character for pet stable. You can delete those and sort of have it start over fresh, and sometimes that can resolve issues. But it shouldn't be doing this anyway. Okay, so if we come into pet stable, and go into, oh, interesting. Aaron Bart, is there a line, an error message above or below that quick slot one? Because that is specifically happening in the turbine files, which usually means there's something else that caused that. But now you've got me very curious. Right, LOTRO, quick slot, 11. This occurs with setting that shortcut. Huh. That's really cool. Okay. Now, I've decided it doesn't actually matter, but if there is another error message, it's always nice to get those. If we go ahead and find a quick slot, and we go ahead and do a recursive search in pet stable, then we're going to go ahead and find a couple of things. Oh. Has a lot of quick slots. I think it would be possible to dig into this more, but the first thing I would want to do is say, let's find the save files that pet stable uses. So we have save settings. Cool. Function save settings. Okay, so we're looking for pet stable settings in the character scope. Well, what does that mean? That means you're going to come over to Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, and there's a plugin data directory. This is where your plugins save their information. This is a data scope character. So if we come into Account and Server and your character name, you should see a pet stable settings file. So other thing you can do to see if it's just a corrupted save file is to go ahead and just rename that to say petstable_settings.plugindata.bak for backup. Really, we're just deleting the file, but not in a way that gets rid of it permanently. Because now that this file is renamed, pets table settings, your plugin won't be able to find it. So when we load that plugin, it's going to act like this is the first time we've seen it. So I move this around, I unload, I reload it, it remembers where it is. But without that file, I go ahead and load it, it thinks this is the first time we've ever launched it. So by moving that settings file out of the way, and then loading the plugin, we can experiment and say, is this a save file issue or is it something else? Now, the fact that this just runs on my machine suggests that it's something to do with something in that save file on your machine. I'd also raise the question of, are you playing with a French or German client? Because some plugins behave poorly when they're used in non-English languages. Cool. Go ahead and play with that, and we'll go back to doing a little code review here. All right, so we have a function getting deed ijk. Awesome. There's some debug functionality in here. Then we go to that ID lookup table. And that ID lookup table is on the way out, but for right now it is necessary. Okay, and then we did a fixing up here where it was looking at ID lookup instead of data files.id lookup. There's a namespace issue. So all of that looks great, and we're going to come back to our source control. Okay, so change how ijk are looked up. Ernbard, you said, I think this is in English. What I meant by that is when you first go to the launcher, the language that you're seeing here and the language that you see in the game, when you have quest text and when you, anytime the game is presenting text, it's either going to be in English or German or French, and that's controlled by the launcher. So when you pick up a quest and you're reading through that's all in English, then you're using the English version of the client. If it's French, you're French. If it's German, you're using the German. English. Awesome. The problem comes with how English and French and German differ when they store numbers. In English, the radix character, we use a period to separate out the whole number from the fractional part. And for French and German, their radix character is a comma. So, the first few digits of pi would then be 3,1415 instead of 3.1415, or 3.1415. And so when numbers get saved out in one way and get read in the other way, problems happen. And so that can be a really subtle way to mess up a plugin. Okay, so change how ijk are looked up. Awesome. What about this one? This one also looks like an ijk lookup issue. Yep. Okay, so we can go ahead and save that. I had removed the global namespace copying in. That's why we added that. Awesome. I found, that's a really interesting one. We'll come back to all of that. Okay. Stage that. Yep, more ijk and companion import. Awesome. So we're going to commit that. Interesting. Aaron Barrett says, seems I have two files in plugin data for my character. Well, I'd be curious to see what the difference in names is, but the pet stable 1.16 is using is called pet stable _ settings dot plugin data. And all you have to do is change the name of this file in some way. Some people do not see file extensions, in which case this would just be pet stable _ settings. Oh, excellent. One of them has a tilde in front. When your character goes into session play, for instance, when you revisit the fall of Khazad Doom, your character logs out and the session play character logs in with your name, but with a tilde in front of it. And so my character Affodil becomes tilde Affodil. And that's a very easy thing for plugins to check for. And since session play characters tend not to have cosmetic pets, the pet stable plugin could have said, oh, you have a tilde in front of your name, therefore I'm not going to do anything, and the plugin would just do nothing. And that's a place where you loading a plugin and it doing nothing makes a lot of sense, because the plugin stable is not going to do anything on a session play character, unless there are session plays in future content that I haven't played yet that do let you have cosmetic pets. So you can safely ignore the tilde version of that file. Or that directory, I should say. So we can see the tilde Affodil directory here has settings for numerous plugins. Okay, so you have found the file, and so here's where you would just change the name of it. In fact, you can change the name of it by throwing a tilde in front of it. Or you can change the name of it, where are we? Pet stable. You can change the name of it just by saying, do not look at me. The point is the name needs to be changed. The plugin is looking for that exact file name. So as long as the file is named anything else, it will act as if the file is not there, because it's not there. So that's the thing. Just change the name by adding or removing any number of characters, and it will act as if the file is not there, but you can easily put the file back if this was not the correct thing to do. It's a nicer version of deleting the file. Deleting the file removes the file, but then it's not there. Okay, we got a works question mark. So the thing I would ask is, can you load it? Can you unload it? Can you load it again? And can you then put, say, a lively slug in there, unload it, load it, and see the lively slug in there? Some basic testing to make sure that the save file that is being generated on your machine works. Now, other thing that I like to do is to make monthly backups of my plugin data directory. So, let's see. I have backups. Oh, there we go. I just make a backup of all of the stuff that is in my plugin data directory, roughly monthly. It is nothing exact. I don't have a calendar reminder for this. But that means that if, for some reason, a save file does get corrupted, or a save file disappears, or a plugin stops loading and it turns out the reason is because of a save file has gone wonky, then I can always go back to something that's reasonably recent. And more importantly, I might be able to figure out what went wrong, because as a plugin developer, it can be very useful to have ways to have a save file that doesn't cause the problem and a save file that does cause the problem. That really, really helps narrow down what the cause of the problem is. And so for me, it's serving two purposes. The first of which is I just have backups. Backups are nice. And the second is having those historical records to compare against can be really, really useful for figuring out what this problem is. Now, if you were so interested, you could send that to me at, let me make sure I don't say the wrong thing. If you wanted to send that old save file to me at lotrodeedtracker@gmail.com, you can see it in the deed tracker somewhere here, lotrodeedtracker@gmail.com. If you were so inclined, you could send that old save file to me, and maybe your new one as well, so we can see one that doesn't work and one that does work. And I might be able to submit a patch, or just probably contact whoever the plugin developer is, and say, hey, here is a thing. You can send that to me at lotrodeedtracker@gmail.com. Okay, So yes, Aaron Bard, I put that into chat there. So you can send that file to me, and specifically the pet stable underscore settings that was your old one, the one that you changed the name of. Just send that to me in an email. If you can send both of them to me in an email, even better. I can see the one that worked for you and the one that didn't work for you. And sometimes that's the secret sauce in finding a bug like this, is finding someone who does have it and then copying their setup. So if you want to send that to me, then I can take a look and figure out why is something in there not working, and how can we make it better so that the plugin will at least load even if it can't deal with whatever the problem was. So that'd be very nice of you if you are able to do that. Cool, awesome. Well, I'm super glad. As Aaron Bird said, it loads now, and I can call pets, and it's super satisfying when a plugin does the job, and it's super annoying when sometimes it does. Oh, it got really dark in here. Well, in the game. I guess Galtreb doesn't have a lot of fire. Neat. Yeah, cool, awesome. So, going back to this little code review that we're doing, what else is happening? There was some stuff with the companion import, the import from the LOTRO companion, which is another third-party application that we can use. And so, some improvements to the companion, LOTRO companion import process. Okay, so what do we have? Oh, yes. Looks like I split out the making of a deed control from the adding the deed to be completed. Ah, yes, because add deed to be completed and add deed that is not done. We're both doing a lot of duplicate work. So this was just making that nicer. Awesome. And in the main window, we can see this complicated thing of iterating through all the pages and all the tabs on that page, and all the deeds on that tab on that page, and then doing stuff got much simpler. We just iterate through, get a couple of variables, and pass it on in. So we're going to go ahead and stage that change. And we have a couple of other ones that are related to the save file, so we don't need to worry about that. And then handled save file upgrades where uncleared and quests are not present. And this was the thing where those were present in the ones that I was originally testing with. And then I went and logged into a different server, a different character, and it broke because that character didn't have any uncleared or any completed quests. So we needed to stage those. And then I found the darndest thing. I found a save file where there was just, entry equals false. And that's not good. That's not correct. So we added some code that just handle that case, handle edge case of bad entry in save file. But the good news is if we found that equals false, or that equals true for that matter, but we just skip it. It might be better to say if that is Boolean and it is true, then go ahead and mark it, but we wouldn't have any of the when was it completed or what method it was completed, so we're just going to go ahead and drop those entries. Okay, and that gets us back to a clean working directory. Awesome. So, with that, and with nighttime in Galtreb, we're going to go ahead and pop up our source code. So, this is Visual Studio Code, which is a free tool you can download, and has available to it the LOTRO API extension, which adds IntelliSense for the Lord of the Rings Online specific parts of the coding process. Of course, if you throw really huge Lua files at it, it sometimes has issues, and DTracker has a bunch of those, so... okay. What do we have? Update the plugin version. So this is a big change. This is a breaking change in some ways to the D-Tracker, everything we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. And so this is a great time to say, upgrade the major version. And so a way that you can think about version numbers when you see this, like x.y.z, is that first one is a major version numbers. So if you introduce a version of a plugin that has a huge number of new features or does breaking changes where it's not compatible with an old version, that kind of thing, that's a great time to increment that major number. We can even change it to a completely disconnected one. So instead of 1, it could be version 3. That would have been a good idea when I changed the save file format from what I called version 1 to version 2. I probably should have bumped the major version there because those are incompatible save files. And same thing now. So this might be a good time to go to dtracker version 3 dot whatever to reflect that it is save file version 3. But the version of the save file and the version of the plugin don't have to go in lockstep like that. So the major, there's the minor version, .3. This is a good one to increment when you have noticeable changes, but they're not breaking changes. And then there's the I think a lot of people call it revision. Just, an incremental change. Added a thing, fixed a bug, whatever. I don't use this number very well, so I tend to just increment the tail number, but I should play around with incrementing those other numbers more. So let's come on into the. Let's collapse down some of these other plugins we're not working on. Oh, Aaron Bird says files sent. Great. Do I see them? I see them. Oh. And there's someone commenting on the opaque plugin. Neat. Well, if the person who is wondering if there's a way to change the size of the window is watching, yes. You can click that little lock button in the upper left, and that will unlock it, and then you can resize the window. I'll go ahead and make a comment on that later. Now, I'm very curious about this pet stable data, so I'm actually going to blow mine away. Awesome. And yeah, adding backup at the end of the name like that is great. So let's take a look and see what's different about these things. All right, we have some numbers, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Data 39 strikes me as being the problem. Okay, so I think I know what the problem was, and I would guess that to make this happen, and this is a shot in the dark, but you might have had a pet item in your inventory that, a barter item that you will be using to make another thing, and you might have dragged that item over into the window. So that is my current guess, is that when Pet Stable was loaded up, there was an item in your inventory that was dragged into there instead of a pet from your skills. Anathalo asks, just out of curiosity, how do you handle it to keep your plugin settings in sync over all characters/servers? Or what would be a good way to do so? Right now I'm using hard links to point to a single file, but that could be risky. And I should do backups as you pointed out. Some of the plugins, like Titan Bar, have more global storage, more account-based storage. And so for a plugin like Titan Bar, I just have a save file that I just load for all of my characters across all of my servers, and that's no problem. Aaron Bard asks, so I dragged from inventory instead of from skills, and this caused an error. That's my current working theory. So what we're going to do is go ahead and do a little test here. Okay. So let me close this. So pet stable, if I load this, I get the same error message. Let's get that. So invalid shortcut for the quick slot specified. Awesome. But what we can do is we can pop open that file, come back to the offending entry, which I think is, we can see a lot of similarities here, right? Like the data is either empty or it has a hexadecimal value. Let me blow that up a little bit. So empty, 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 hex value. Empty, 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 hex value. So a lot of similar. Oh, that one's interesting. What happens if we make this empty? We come into the game and we test the theory. So pet stable, load. Great. It loads. That's a good sign. Of course, I don't know where. Oh, wow. Cool. Okay. So this would be, hopefully, looks just like it looks like on yours, where you have various ones here. So my theory is, what happens if I put that there? Awesome. Unload and load. Okay, so that drum, by dragging it from my inventory, we got an inventory link data, but we tried to tell the game, this is a skill, and it's not. It's an inventory item. And so if we get rid of that, data 27, awesome. Show the window. In fact, I'm going to put it over in data 1 for my purposes. Unload and load. So if we come into data 1, there we go. We can see that did indeed get this. So if we get rid of it and load, now there's nothing there. If we put it, oops, no, data 1, quote, and if we put it back, that replicates the problem. Yeah, okay. So that's the danger with this plugin. So pet stable, you can drag things from your inventory, and if you do that, you will create a save file that will not load until you go in and manually remove that thing. So I have put those shackles there, and I can only get rid of it by dragging something else on top of it. So if you do this, before you unload the plugin, just put something else on top of it, and it's fine. But if you leave a link to something in your inventory and unload and load, oh, now it's broken. And now we've got to go back in and find the thing. And I'm just doing it by doing a quick little scan. There we go. So gotta kill that, and we're back. So awesome, really interesting, because this is an example of where the plugin is letting you do more than it says. It should be just letting you add your cosmetic pet skills. It's letting you add whatever. You can drag and drop whatever, some bread, and it will work, right? Like we just saw, the window closed, and I ate the bread, and now it's showing me that cooldown. But trying to recreate that when it loads back up as a skill instead of as an item is causing problems. And this is actually fixable. If someone cared to do this, in the plugin files, when it is making these quick slots, let's see, main window, quick slot, let's find uses of that. Oh, shortcut. I should be looking for a shortcut. So when we're doing this, we're passing a type, probably. Oh, wait. Settings, shortcut, type? So there should be a type in that file. Hang on. What's going on here? Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. So there is a type listed, but there's only one. It looks like it's a sort of a global type, and so this is the offending line of code, I think, right here, for anyone watching who's interested in such things. Turn off regex search. We're setting the shortcut. We're hard coding that type. Yeah. Oh, random pet. Okay. So setting the shortcuts. Yeah, because we have to say what type it is possible to detect which type it is. So this code could correctly differentiate between skill um, and inventory item. It could also um, it could also just check and say, oh, if this is not a skill, if it's an inventory item, just skip it. Just pretend like it wasn't there. There's a couple of different ways this could be solved in code. But for now, just don't drag anything from your inventory into this window. that's gonna catch you out. Let's see. So let's do a quick search. Inventory. Cool. Let's post a reply. So, the found on, let's see, if you drag an item from your inventory into the window instead of a skill then the UI allows this, but it generates a save file that causes an error on load. Cool. So we can say, we'll get this one. And I like to go ahead and call that a code, just to get it nice and monospaced. And then we can go ahead and say, okay, fct.lua at 127 uses the skill type for the terminal shortcut. So passing an item shortcut string causes doesn't work. We'll just call that. I'll probably go through and make that a little bit nicer looking before I commit it after the stream. But that's the general idea of that bug fix is what am I seeing, and if I have a reason to think what it is, what is it? Cool. Thank you very much for the very interesting puzzle and for showing me or giving me a reason to look at pet stable or pet stable. I think that's a really interesting way to do your pets. And I've left the bread in there. That's not good. Let's slug it out of there. Okay. That's a really interesting way to do pets. Like it's a neat compromise between the pets plugin, which allows you to add an arbitrary number to that bar and it expands and collapses. It kind of looks like an inventory window. Now, I guess the question is, can you drag stuff around? Oh, that's interesting. So, that is perhaps not how I would prefer to implement something like that. If you're dragging from the window and into the window, I'd like to see that implemented as a move instead of as a copy, but, I didn't write this plugin, so who am I to say? Okay, fascinating, really neat. Thanks, Aaron Bard. Okay. So, kind of the recap, when a plugin is misbehaving to the point where it does not load, it can be very helpful to find the save files that it is looking at and just slide them out of the way. Or delete them if you don't care about the actual content. Some plugin save files just don't matter that much. But a lot of times, something in the save file was just not expected by the plugin author. And so they don't see it. And they will never see it until they see that specific malformed save file. Whereas, if the problem happens on your machine cold, you've installed the plugin, you press load, and it just doesn't work, that feels like a much more code-based problem. But if it happens only because of some save files, it can be really hard for the plugin author to even know that that problem exists. Like, if the plugin author never tried to drag an inventory item into their window, even by accident, they will never have seen this error. And it just won't have occurred to them that, oh, maybe I should save the type of the thing dragged in along with the shortcut so I can make this thing correctly. Because that's another thing you could do. You could allow people to drag items in there. Just you have to save it off as an item shortcut and then instantiate that shortcut as an item shortcut, and then it all works. But that code does not exist by itself. Someone has to know to write that code, or think to write that code, or want to write that code. Awesome. Very cool. All right. Well then. So, update the plugin version. Just what we were thinking of. Let's come on in here. This is going to be in the .plugin file. So we can go to the dtracker.plugin, and we can say, you know what, this is going to be 3.0.1 or something. We're going up to version 3 of dtracker. Oh, Aaron also sees the thing where it copies pets. Yeah, you're not going to be able to drag from one to another spot to move it, but you can overwrite by putting another pet on top of it. And if you feel comfortable editing a text file, you can find the data for a specific spot and just make it double quote, with nothing in between, and it will be an empty thing the next time you load up your plugin. But if you ever are hand editing a plugin save file, make sure the plugin is unloaded, because otherwise you'll make your changes, you'll save, you'll unload your plugin, and it will overwrite that file. That is a thing you can do, though, is when the plugin is unloaded, you can just come into your plugin save file, find the number that corresponds. So if you're looking at spot number 1, data 1, and you can just say, nope, that's not there. So not everyone's going to be comfortable with editing a text file in this manner. This can be an intimidating form to see what shows up in the UI. But if you are, you can get rid of it like this. Just delete the item and save, and the next time we load up the plugin, we can see those 2 items are gone. Number 1, and I'm going to guess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 of them, so 20. So number 22. Yep, it was number 22 that I also deleted. And so just go 1 through 10, 11 through 20, 21 through 30, 31 through 40, 41 through 50. Now, this is fascinating because it's hard-coded to have 50 of them, but there's nothing inherent about the system. You could have the system be arbitrarily large, and that's a fascinating idea. I'm not going to get sidetracked on that. Okay, cool. So if you want to get rid of a specific item, it is possible. That short answer. Okay, apparently there's a clear entry to get rid of all entries. It would be very nice to just have a clear space number to get rid of a specific index, and that's doable, but again, someone has to write that code. But yeah, you can do a /pe space clear and just get rid of all of them. So feels like a burn it all down solution. Neat. Okay, so we're going to go to version 3.0.1. For some reason, when I look at a version like 3.0.0, it gives me the heebie-jeebies, like, oh, there's something broken in that release. That is too early. And we're going to come into the plugin compendium one and do the same update, version 3.0.1. Okay. And we're going to come back into our README file and get rid of the update plugin version. Come on back in and go ahead and do that. So version number, updated version number to major number now equals major save file version. Cool. One more thing down. All right, there was a thing here, add helper function to get IJK from Indeed. I actually did that between things. Nicole in chat asks, can you change skin UI resolution? That's a very interesting question that I am not equipped to handle. My knowledge of skins goes to about the point where I know they exist, and I have added some to my machine at one point, but I tend to use the default skin myself. So for those who are wondering, in your UI settings, if you scroll on down, there is a skins section somewhere. I think there we go. Current user skin. You can install them. I have installed the pack referenced in chat there from LOTRO Interface called the JRR skins, something like that. As a little redhead has said in the chat. And so what I don't know is anything about changing resolutions. Although that is an incomplete answer. These skin packs have entries for UI elements, and so a common thing that people like to do is either have the map be full screen or have the map not be full screen. And so those map entries have a width and a height to them that control the placement of that overlay that contains the map. So my map right now takes up the whole 1920 by 1080 on my screen, whereas perhaps on Little Redhead's, it only takes up 1024 by 768. And so you can see around it. And you can also change where it's placed, so maybe it's in the middle so you can see everything around it or whatnot. So I don't think I know enough about skins to know if I'm even answering your question, because I'm not sure what you mean by resolution in this question. So I'm sorry about that. I do think there are a number of people over on the LOTRO forums and maybe the LOTRO interface forums who are interested in skins who might be better equipped to have that conversation. Oh, Nicole says you just answer it. Thank you. Awesome. Well, go me, I guess. Go us for working that out. Okay. A thing that I am interested in doing is finding out why the auto-completion of prerequisites deeds isn't working. And this is going to maybe take a little bit of digging into the logic, because the logic is not great. It was one of those, it's better than nothing. So let's explain the problem first. So if I go into Rovanian, into the Great River, if I complete the deed, Quests of the Great River, I have necessarily completed Quests of Thingvad, Quests of Eorlsmead and the Wailing Hills, all of these things. So Deed Tracker had a feature before it got broken perhaps, where if it detects the completion of the one, it'll automatically complete the other ones for you, on the theory that maybe you just got out of sync. So the first question is there an option that disables this that somehow got tripped over? And what do we have? We're going to not hide completed deeds. Do not hide deeds. Yeah, when completing a deed, mark all prerequisite deeds completed. So that's the one where we want that to work. And it does not. So let's dig into the logic a little bit and try to figure out what broke when we changed formats and see what's going on. Okay, so this thing, mark all prerequisites. So we're going to look for the word prerequisite, try to narrow in on that. Alrighty, there's a whole bunch of those. But we found the one that matters. This is internally referenced as cascade completion. Awesome. So we're going to come on into the plugin functions and see where this is getting used. Okay, so we're in the right place. We found the setting that controls this. It's called cascade completion. And if that is turned on, then we should do stuff. So we can tell that we're in the right place by doing a little check. So we're going to do a debug call that says cascade completion is on, import is not happening. Okay. Because during an import, all of that's going to be handled anyway. So we're going to unload. We're going to load this back up. And we're going to go ahead and collapse that, come on down to Great River, and click this. Cool. So it didn't happen, but we can see our debug output says cascade completion is on, import is not happening. That's this line here. So we know we're in the right place. All right. So I'm already seeing some concerns. This deed index variable that we're looping through is not getting used. It's a dark gray color in this color scheme, showing that it's never referenced. And that's concerning because why not? Right? So what we're seeing is, oh, yes. So what we're doing is we're accidentally reusing the main deed instead of iterating through these other deeds. And so what we need to do is define a couple of variables here. So deed tab equals deed.tab. I think it's called that. We can double check. So deed info. No, deed data. We can see it's tab and page. Great. Local hang on. Completed deed tab and completed deed page, because we're going to be going through other possible deeds. And so what we want to do is we want to take, where is K defined? Okay, I had K there. What we want is we want to have a function that takes an I and a J and a K in the UI sense and gives us back a deed. Do we have one of those? Well, maybe. Let's go ahead and split this right so we can look without losing our place. So, get deed. There is one, a get deed that takes an IJK. Awesome. And in this case, the tab is the I. We should actually probably comment I equals tab, J equals page, K equals deed. Specific deed. It's good to document these things so they're not just in the head of the person who's currently working on it. Okay, so what we want is we want to use this deed index to get a local possible deed equals get deed. That's going to do the completed deed tab, the completed deed page, and the what we're calling the deed index. And then this should be used, possible deed. Yeah, we can see from the spinning circle at the bottom here, it's doing a recheck of the syntax. If that finishes, because this is a long file, what we should see is that deed index is getting used, these are getting used, and while we don't necessarily care about some of these return values, this is a function that returns multiple values. It returns each of these, and so we need to grab them in some way so that we're getting just the ones we care about. It might be possible to like eliminate them with an underscore or something. I haven't looked into that. So we have to get the deed skip info. If it's not skipped, and all of this other stuff, so we need to make sure anywhere where we're using deed is the correct version of deed. That and that. D2, okay. Mark that. Okay. There's another version, which is cascade deselection, which we're going to have to come back to in a minute. But in the meantime, let's reload this and see if that conflation of the actual deed and any possible subdeeds is resolved. So let's come on in here and click. It didn't work, but we can see in the chat that it's trying to work. So what's messed up here? Actually, I mean, our question is, did it work but just not update the UI? That's always possible. So we're going to unload, reload. We can see it did work internally. So we're actually going to come in and deselect these, unload and reload so that we update that save file. Okay, and then we're going to come back into the code here. So mark deed complete from chat, possible deed. So the mark deed complete from chat function feels like maybe there's a problem with it, except we've seen it working. For instance, if we go ahead and complete Explorer of the Great River. Awesome. We get completion stuff in our window. We see it all completing down here. We're just not seeing the UI update. If we move away and come back, it will be updated, and that's nice. So what we can do is we can say, all right, so mark deed the chat is correctly updating save data, but not the UI. Okay, so that's a new separate problem. Not going to worry about it for right now. However, cascade completion works two ways. If you complete Explorer of the Great River, all those other things are necessarily completed. But if you uncomplete ThingLad Explorer, maybe you just checked the wrong thing, by definition, Explorer of the Great River must also not be done, because you can't have the one without the other. So this is a cascade uncompletion, cascade deselecting. So we want to do the same change over here, where we have, I can get rid of that. Okay. We are cascade deselecting, great, deed index equals this, temp deed tier equals that, local deed, that's a concern. Let me go ahead and rename that. Local possible deed equals oh, we already had an IJK. Interesting. So this was a little redundant. Let's go ahead and use that IJK. All right, so possible. Okay, so we have the possible deed is already completed. If that, okay, and that, possible deed. Okay, that, correct level, okay. Cool. So I don't feel like I changed a lot there, but the mark complete, or in this case, incomplete from chat, really toggle completion. Okay, so we're going to undo ThingLad Explorer, come back over, come back. Explorer is still set up. And so the cascade deselection isn't quite working. So let's get some information about that. Oh, hey, freebie. Thanks, Moobot. So we can see some store hope tokens. The store hope tokens are nifty. They stack with regular hope tokens, giving you possible, I think, plus 10 total hope tokens. And they were set aside from the in-game craftable hope tokens in that they persisted through defeat. I hear that's going to come to regular crafted hope tokens as well. That'll be very exciting. But in the meantime, we're going to store that into combat. Oh, I have so many hope tomes. Can any of you stack? Yes, 2 of them stacked. Great. So sometimes you'll stick stuff into your storage, and you'll get separate stacks of things that feel like they should be stackable. If you pull them back out into your inventory, you'll see them coalesce sometimes. So these are slightly different. These are bound to account purchased from store, and these are just bound to account. And so because they have different attributes there, they don't stack together, which is sad. My inventory feels that sometimes. Okay, so what's going on with this deselection? Well, let's go ahead and get some output. So at this point, we can say debug, and we'll just do a string.format, and this is going to be empty tier, possible deed. I'll just do the ID. And is already complete. And you know what I don't know is the Lewis string format, or I should say, if I know this, I don't know that I know this, is what string formatting is allowed here. So string.format. D for decimal, X for hexadecimal, O for octal, F for floating point, S for strings, plus other variants. Cool. What are the other variants? Integer format, float format, character. I'm curious about that. All right, but all right, empty tier. A is probably a number. D is probably a number. Well, we'll put the is already complete as a string just for a moment. Temp D tier, awesome. I'm trying to get better about using the string formatting instead of just doing string concatenation, but it is not sticking in my head very well. Okay. We're going to just handle that possible Boolean right there. Now, there's a few more outputs that I might want to get, but this is a good starting point. Okay, so if I go ahead and uncheck this, bad argument, number expected, awesome. So, oh, yep, of course. Now, what we're looking for is also correct level. And we would also like parent level, which I don't know why I didn't call that tier, but oh well. So, dump out that Boolean and parent level. Okay, let's give that a shot. Good. Okay, so we can see empty tier 2 is already complete, true. Empty tier 2 possible is already complete, true. I feel like I'm missing an opportunity to go ahead and say checking deed get fully qualified deed name Oh, I didn't get the other deed. Hang on. Possible deed. Wait, I did. I got it here. But the temp one, I did not get it in the right spot. Okay. Let's reload that. Okay, there is a syntax error here. Gotta get the right number of parentheses. Okay, so it looks like no. Alright, logic is not quite right because it thought I hit all of them. Let's go ahead and undo Thematic Explorer. That's not working. Alright, so there's definitely a logic error here. Let's take a look. Let's do a simple version. Do we have a simple version? Yeah, let's undo Explorer of the Great River. So, Explorer of the Great River, checking deeds of the Great River. Great. And then we're seeing mark deed complete from chat. So I think a big problem here is this mark deeds complete from chat. Because it's not correctly updating the UI, that could be causing some problems. So the next thing we want to do is come on into the main window, mark deed complete from chat. Find the UI element and check it if it isn't already checked. Okay. Let's add some debug statements. Setting deed check to not inverting d.check value from to okay, so that gives us the ability to make sure we know what we're doing. And this is, again, this is good to know which deed we're talking about here. So we're going to come on and just add a debug statement to the top here. So we're in a mark deed complete from chat for this deed, and we're inverting the check value. Awesome. Or debug wrong character or wrong tab, only setting in settings. Okay. Let's see which of those options is happening. Okay. So we can see that the check to see should this be updated in the UI, because right now the UI is only constructed for the current tab. We don't have one for each of the tabs sitting in the background. That could change in the future, but for right now, that's the case. And so we can see we're not trying to check the visual state of that box. So it would be useful to know why. So debug checking against and against that, and is check present. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and add in self-selected character. Awesome. We've got the current character. Great. Self-selected tab. We've got I, and then dump of deed check. And that'll let us check on each one of those. Except I didn't do a string dot format. That's a very important thing. All right. Bad argument number 5. Number expected got nil. Well, that's a good thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, oh, sorry. This is number 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I equals d dot. It's lowercase. It needs to be all uppercase. Oh my goodness. So we should double check to make sure that didn't happen anywhere else. Nope, just here. What about just a capital T tab? Nope, just here. Oh my goodness. That's a subtlety that's just going to get you. Field names are case sensitive in Lua. Capital T lowercase ab is completely different than capital TAB. Oh, Aaron Bird says. So, you do this kind of bug fixing each week before? I have another plugin which I can ask you next week if you like. Yeah, I'm here every week. If there's nothing else on the agenda, if people don't have questions or thoughts or concerns, then I just try to make progress on one of my plugins or a plugin that's interesting to me at the time. And then if people do have questions, then I don't mind having a detour. And Aaron Bird also asks, quick question, can the plugin manager unload just one plugin? And if so, how? Short answer is kind of. So, the way plugins work in LOTRO is they use a term called apartments. So when you load a plugin, it either goes into the global general apartment where all the plugins go, or you can say, I want to be in this specific apartment. And because of reasons, LOTRO can't unload a plugin, it can unload an apartment. And so a lot of plugins will ask to be in their own apartment for reasons, and so it can be very possible to do this. So if you type /plugins space list, and so type /plugins space list. I've just gone ahead and put that into Twitch chat there as well. Then you're going to get a list of plugins. You're going to see which ones are loaded, and if there's something in the parentheses after the version number, that's the apartment name. And since DTracker has an apartment name, we can say /plugins space unload space DTracker, because that's the name of the apartment. It's all one word. Example. And if you run that, then the game will unload any plugin that is in that apartment. That could be 0, in which case it won't do anything. That could be just the 1. If all of my plugins were in an apartment called Cube Plugins, because that's my developer name, Cube, then all of my plugins would just be unloaded in one go. And so some plugins don't have an apartment. They're in the global apartment, and there's, to my knowledge, no way to just unload that. So let's take a look at the pets stable and the pets as well. So if I do another /plugins space list, what we see is one of them is in the apartment called pets. One of them is in the apartment called pet stable. And what we can do is we just want to unload pet stable. We can say /plugins space unload space pet stable. Bam. We see that one unloaded, but pets did not. And if we do another /plugins space list, we can see, actually I could even make that visible down here. Yeah. Okay. So /plugins space list, we can see only pets is loaded. And so when you want to do something like that, just keep in mind that some plugins you can't do it with unless you go in and give it an apartment name. Some plugins you can do, and sometimes when you do this, you'll be unloading more than one plugin. That might be more confusing than it was helpful. Let me know. But basic answer is sometimes. Oh, sweet. People are buying my auctions. Thanks, people. I only put those up during Little Red Head stream. Okay, Aaron Bird says, great, that worked. Awesome. The apartment model can be useful if you have multiple plugins that you want to be able to interact with each other. That can help with that. But it means that when you have two things loaded into the same plugin, LOTRO can't tell which parts in that apartment came from which plugin. And so it can't, I shouldn't say it can't do that. LOTRO does not. LOTRO does not track which parts of the apartment came from which plugin. Whether or not it's technically possible or not, it just doesn't. And so when you unload, there's no way to kind of split out which parts contributed to the current state of the apartment, so it just tears the whole apartment down and calls it good. If you're the kind of person who's like, oh no, I definitely want my plugin to have an apartment, you can look at a different plugin that does. You're looking for this tag in the .plugin file, configuration apartment equals blah. And you just want to copy that into a different .plugin file. For instance, maybe if this minstrelbuff.plugin file didn't have one, you would go ahead and just add it. And you would just make sure to change that apartment name. My cool apartment. But I would recommend using a name that does not have spaces. Spaces in that name does not work. So if we go ahead and come on over to minstrelbuff and load, we do a slash plugins space list, and we can see minstrelbuff has my cool apartment! Exclamation point. And so if we copy that, we can go ahead and say slash plugins, unload, my cool apartment, it's gone. Now, okay. Aaron Burt asks, all the work you are showing is Lua code? Yes. For a plugin to work in LOTRO, it has to be Lua. And so it's a combination of two things. There is a .plugin file that gives LOTRO information. Most of this is just used visually in the window over here. So we can see dtracker, cube, the versions over on the left. The description is what's used in here. The image gets shown up in the window as well. That's weird. Is my mouse cursor? Okay, it's there. The package is what Lua file will the game try to load. And if it's not a Lua file, it can't load it. And also an optional apartment. So every plugin file is going to have a lot of the same structure to it. But this is the key one, is LOTRO is going to look for a file called main.lua. The .lua is implicit. And it is going to load that up. So we can load that up. It's going to start at the first line and just start doing things. And if at any point it encounters a line that it doesn't know how to do, so for instance, if it says, this won't work, right there, it'll spit out an error. And if it gets no errors, then the plugin is loaded. Aaronbird asks, if one is starting from zero and wants to learn Lua code, where would you start? Excellent question. So there are two resources I would point you to in the LOTRO community. There is the seminal thread, writing LOTRO Lua plugins for noobs. Apparently I'm not linked to the very top of it. I would like to be. And so this has a whole bunch of information. So this is a great source of information I put into chat. And then you can also find, at Life Beyond the Shire, which is Little Redhead's page for LOTRO related things. We also have my introductory series of writing a plugin, and this runs through the basic process of writing, in this case, the Opaque Quest Tracker plugin, which is just a little standalone plugin. In fact, we can just add it. Oh, it's already here. It just provides an opaque window underneath your quest area to make it a little bit easier to read your quests. And you can change how opaque it is, and you can change what the color is in that opacity. I gotta hit save. These kinds of things. But the basic thing is put a window on the screen, change the opacity. And that's it. So that is what is going on here. And let me put a link into chat here. My introduction to LOTRO plugins. So you can go there, and there's accompanying videos. They're the first four of the first 5 videos that I did on this stream. You can find them in the playlist on Twitch or on YouTube. You can come on in. You can see the accompanying video linked to from these things. And it's me in the old apartment going through these. So it starts very, I hope, very gently. Where do you find the reference manual for the programming language itself? How do you do some basic commands? What is a syntax error? All these things. And then, if you say this is useful, a couple hours you've spent in a while. That's awesome. So I would encourage you to check out both of these resources. One of them might speak to you a little bit more than the other. Play around with some of the examples that they give you. And, maybe it clicks, maybe it doesn't. No harm if it doesn't. And then if you have questions about what you've seen or learned, you want to bring them back next week. Yeah, awesome. Let's do it. All right. Sweet, says Aaron Bard. Awesome. So yeah, that's what happens is you in your plugin file provide LOTRO with a link to a Lua file, and that Lua file can include other Lua files. This one includes a whole bunch of them, and every time you include a file, LOTRO will pause, look at that file, and then come back until it gets to the very end of that first file you gave it, and that's it. It's done. It's either loaded it all into memory and it's ready to be a plugin, or something went wrong and the plugin is not loaded. Okay, so what we can see is we found an error message. Oh, lost the error message. That's okay. We're going to come on back in and reload this. Okay, checking Affidel against Affidel, cool, 7 against 7, and is check present? It was present. So inverting. Oh, of course, because we fixed the I problem, and that was the whole problem. Oh, my goodness. Spell your variables correctly. That's the main takeaway from this. Or figure out a consistent way for you to spell them so that you just spell it right inherently. Okay, so if we come in here and it's working, it's great. Oh my goodness, I feel so much better about that. Yes. Okay, so the logic assumed that. The logic for doing this stepping back assumed that the other logic was going to be correct. And so when the UI wasn't properly being updated and then we went back up to the next one, it was using the state of the UI to determine whether or not it needed to do a thing, and everything was just going wrong. So now we have cascade completion and cascade uncompletion. And if you are manually doing things and you click the wrong button, you can also just shift-click one of these check marks to unselect everything underneath it as well. Because normally if you deselect Deeds of the Great River, that doesn't mean you didn't do all the rest of it. If you hold down the Shift button and click it, we'll go ahead and just unselect everything for you. That's a holdover from the days before we could import this completion status from the LOTRO Companion app application. But anyway, this is super exciting. Very nice to have this feature back. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of some of these debug statements that we added in. And then we're kind of come back to our source control and figure out what's going on. So auto-completion is working. Excuse me. And that function is also good as well. So let's go ahead. Auto-completing cascade deed completion is now working. Actually, we're going to call it deed cascading because it's both for completion and uncompletion. Deed cascading is now working. Okay, so in here, we want to get rid of this debug statement. Forgot about that, so we're just going to discard that. And here, oh my goodness, so much effort for 2 little characters. That's where it is. And in our plugin functions, we had some things here as well. So let's double check that we didn't leave anything behind that we didn't mean to. Okay, so we saved off that possible deed. Awesome, we're using it. Using possible deed, all great. So we go ahead and grab that possible deed here so that we can use it. Oh, there's a couple of debug statements. We want to go ahead and nix those. And save that. And possible deed and comment. Lovely. All of that is great and necessary. So we can go ahead and take that snapshot, go ahead and commit those changes. And our working directory is once again clean, so we can move on to the next disaster. Okay, so on that note, we are coming up on the last, around 15-ish minutes, depending on how involved I get, but about 15 minutes more left in this stream. So if you have any last-minute thoughts, questions, concerns, comments that you wanted to get into chat now, Aaron Bird, you had a different question. I wasn't sure if that was the one that you threw out there about the Lua code or if there was something else. Feel free to pop it out now. If there's time, maybe we can talk about it. Otherwise, that'll be next week. And if anyone else has anything that they wanted to bring up this week or just wanted to talk about the weather, it's all good. Okay. So, any places where accessing carried out of stuff directly, consider replacing with the helper function. That's a good idea. Let's figure out how pervasive this problem is. So, to do, like everywhere. So many places. Plugin functions, options, oh my goodness. That's a lot. That is a lot. Nicole says, I just want to say thank you for the help and teach me how the plugins work. You're very welcome. Very happy to spread information about this. Oh, Poetical. The plugin Poetical issue Aaron Bird had. Poetical can access my poems on most characters, but not all. Not sure why that is, or how to be sure my poems are available for all characters on all servers. Well, I don't actually know a lot about Poetical, and you got me curious. Poetical. So, go ahead and add that in. A plugin designed to store the words of your favorite poems and songs and allow you to recite them a line at a time using a single button press. This seems conceptually very similar to Lyrical, which I have used a little bit. Poetical. Oh, I like this little UI. Nice. Tags. Neat. Filter. Okay. And settings. Oh, you can have comments. Nice. I'm interested in this delay seconds. Order of lines, remote position, nice. Show. Okay, all that seems really awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and make a new one. Oh, nice! There's a whole new window. This feels like it has more function or more, I don't know, structure to it than lyrical. But it's been a while since I've looked at lyrical. Poem name. My first poem. Tags. New tag. Oh, nice. Test. Testing. Tests. Nice. Oh, that's really. I like that tagging. I can see why people would want to use this. Default prefix / say. Blank line action. Okay, and then what is the plus button? Oh, nice. So find replace. Plus, oh, this is very smooth. This is my poem. It does not rhyme. Oops. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and save that. My first poem, cool. So we can go ahead and do the thing. And the thing. Do the thing. What I'm curious about is... Okay, yes, so you can click a line and then it'll auto-advance. Okay. And then I was curious about in the settings about... Oh, it's not there. The delay. So if I have a delay of 2 seconds, I'll go ahead and pop this out. Oh, lovely. So it disables the button until at least that much time has passed. Okay. That's neat. I like this interface. It's interesting that there's the secondary button up here as well. So you can just do a one-off. Can you do a one-off without changing the line? You can. Okay, nice. You can put a musical note in front of your spoken words for singing. Oh, interesting. Is that in the settings? Or do you just put it in as the part of the default prefix? Hmm? You have to add the symbol. You forget where. No worries. No worries. Okay, so we've seen a little bit of how this works. So what we can do is we can pop open the code. So we're going to come on into LOTRO Documents, LOTRO Rings Online, Plugins, and we can see that is in Symbo. So if I go ahead and launch Visual Studio Code, we can go ahead and open a folder, and it's going to be that folder. Yeah, sure. I trust the code here. Why not? So what we can ask for is, well, let's find save. Okay, so we're looking for poetical save, poetical load. So where are these files being saved? We're saving account. Okay, account, and account. When we load, we are loading account. Oh, interesting. There's an or here where it tries to load from account, or if that doesn't work, from the character. I wonder if Once Upon a Time was character and they moved to account wide and that was a solution. Okay. Bard says, a question mark seems to do a musical note symbol. I had to copy it from another player's chat window to get it to work. Yeah, fair enough. Gotta find the right Unicode character, maybe. Okay, so if we come into Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, plugin data, we can come on into the account-wide poetical. So we do a search for poetical. We're going to see three things: poetical settings, poetical poems, and as a backup. But the important thing is, where are these things? So we can see before all servers. So we can see before all servers. So it's in the all servers folder of account. So poetical, on the face of it, should be available to all of the characters on all of the servers of your account, because it is in the all servers bucket of that account. So if you ever play with more than one account, then you wouldn't be able to see it with those characters by default. Okay, so Aaron Bard has more than one account. So what you would want to do is, assuming you have a bunch of poems, song lyrics, whatever, is these two files, poeticalpoems.plugindata, poeticalsettings.plugindata, need to be in the all servers bucket of each account. But if you make changes to one, it's not going to copy across to others. There are some technical ways to kind of solve this, but if you don't change these very often, the easiest thing is to just manually copy them over when you need to. Or to have one, if you have one account that's sort of your main account, maybe make all the changes there and then copy it to your other ones, something like that. The way plugins work, there is no way for a plugin to see plugin data for a different account than the one that is logged in. That there's no working around that. So what you might do is, as an example, if you had a B414, 213562 account, and a 63 and a 64, you might just designate one of those as, this is my main account. And so that's where you do your poem, or your main poetical account anyway. And that's where you do your changes. And whenever you do your changes, you just mentally remember, oh, okay, I want to copy those across to other accounts. But within one account, you should always be able to see those poetical poems, lyrics, whatever, from whatever character you're logged into. So hopefully that is your experience, that the characters on the other account are the ones that don't see it. And that's just a side effect of a plugin can save things account-wide or server-wide or just for one character on one server on one account, but it can't look at data for other accounts. You'd have to check, but it seems it loaded on several accounts, but not all. That would be the first thing, is make sure those two save files are consistent across all your accounts, and then if you can replicate the problem, bring it back next week, and we'll dig into it some more. But that's the simple answer. Is there's no way for a plugin to do cross-account save files. And it's an easy thing, I think, if you're a developer on the game, to just, you have the one server and you have the one account, and maybe you have the one character to pop in and look at something. But these levels of, well, what if you have multiple accounts? Kind of come in, like when they were introducing the Legendary Item Reward Track, and I'm curious how far I got on that. Did I finish it off today? No, I'm on 99. So when they introduced this, the wording was such that it indicated there was a single reward track for your account. But what they meant was that there was a single reward track for each server. So it's super easy, even for people at SSG, which I of course am not, it's super easy to be imprecise in separating out these concepts of character and server and account, and not have a clear delineation for a new feature like this. Is it account-wide? Is it server-wide? Is it character-wide? So if you stumble across this, you're in good company. So close to the legendary coffer of the Warm Winter Goat Kid. Let's see. Warm. It's so cute. Oh, it's tail wags. Nice. Yes, there's. You should search for warm. You get the warm winter coat kid and the swarm of bees. Excellent. Okay, Ironbard. Yeah, give it a try. Check it out. See how it goes. Yes, this is a swarm of bees, says Loretta. Excellent. Okay, so that's excellent. Thanks so much for popping that in, Aaron Bard. It's no worries. Like I enjoy working on plugin development, but I also enjoy digging into these plugins. Like I did not realize Poetical existed, or if I did, I've forgotten it. And I really love some of the features it has there. Like they went above and beyond to do things like search and replace, to do tagging systems. That's lovely. So my kudos to Simbo and whoever else has worked on Poetical. It looks lovely. All right. Oh, I'm going to push my changes out so they don't exist only on my machine. Awesome. Well, we are actually right up against the 2-hour mark. I think it's a lovely time, and daylight has come to Galtrev here in the heart of Dunland. I'm really enjoying the landscape as we play through this area on Treebeard. For the first time on Treebeard. I've been here on other servers, but also my computer was not as powerful at the time. Oh, Aaron Bart says you'll pass that on. Well, yeah, if you know the person who made that, awesome. They've done a fantastic job from everything I've seen so far. Okay, neat. I'll continue admiring the view here, but let's see, anything else? I'll go ahead and respond to that later. Awesome. Excellent. Well, this is 2 hours. This has been a delightful time. We made some progress on the D-Tracker. We've answered some questions in chat. Thank you very much for asking them. And that is all we are going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you here next week. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.